सारसारं भुजगेन्द्रहारं सदा वसन्तं हृदयारविन्दे अहं भवानी सहितं नमामि। हर हर शम्भो शम्भो शिव महादेवा शम्भो शम्भो शिव महादेवा शम्भो शम्भो शिव महादेवा शम्भो शम्भो शिव महादेवा। ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय। नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय। गंगाधराय शिव गंगाधराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय। गंगाधराय शिव गंगाधराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय। जटाधराय शिव जटाधराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय। जटाधराय शिव जटाधराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय। ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय। रामेश्वराय शिव रामेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय। रामेश्वराय शिव रामेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय। ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय। सोमेश्वराय शिव सोमेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय। सोमेश्वराय शिव सोमेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय। ॐ नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय ॐ नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय। भद्रेश्वराय शिव भद्रेश्वराय भूतेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय भूतेश्वराय शिव भूतेश्वराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय गंगाधराय शिव गंगाधराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय गंगाधराय शिव गंगाधराय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय ओम 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 नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय ओम नमः शिवाय हर हर भोले नमः शिवाय
Welcome to Satsang. First, let's give a beautiful round of applause for our Rishikars. Yeah. Really beautiful they did. It's so wonderful to watch them blossom into all of the different glory and beauty of who they all are. So we start satsang with a question that comes from our family joining us from all over the world. And then we open it up to any questions that anyone here might have. So there's a microphone here. After we take the first question, if you have any questions, feel free to just come and share your name, share where you're from, and share the question. Why is it that the moment when we choose a spiritual path, life suddenly throws countless pebbles, distractions like money, business, and worldly noise to pull us away from our inner journey? And this is asked by Sunil Bhatia on Instagram. I don't think the world actually sends these hindrances just when we get on a spiritual path. Like, I don't think the world, the universe is working against us. I think it's working for us. But I think what happens is when we get onto a spiritual path, suddenly we notice these things more. Suddenly the distractions become more obvious. Where we were chasing money, for example, now in the flow of our spiritual practice, maybe success arises. It's not that the universe is plotting and planning, like what can it do to unseat us from the path. But as our focus, as our attention gets clearer and clearer and more refined, we notice the distractions more. We notice the noise more. And this is great. It means that we're getting more and more refined. And so what happens as we start walking a spiritual path is we make choices in our life. We make different decisions. Maybe we used to be like a big city person and nightlife person, and we just, we loved the hustle and the bustle and the noise and the city that never sleeps. And then we start meditating. And then suddenly finding a place that's quiet becomes more enticing than the hustle and bustle that never sleeps. Suddenly the feel of expansive energy in the world around us becomes more precious than streets and streets of stores that are open 24 hours a day, or music that is constantly on, or whatever it is. And so we may choose to live somewhere else. We may choose different friends, because suddenly that which was fun and great and companionship and wonderful, a lot of it can start to sound like noise. The gossips, the constant like, oh, isn't he hot? Isn't she hot? Do you think conversations that we used to think were fun become meaningless. It's important, by the way, not to judge, not to become one of those spiritually arrogant people of, oh, these people are so low. It's not that. It's just become noise for you. They are exactly where they are meant to be on their paths. So don't judge, don't get all arrogant about it. But we do absolutely start to notice that conversations, just say that we used to really enjoy, now we don't enjoy them so much. I was sharing last night in here about my mom trying to entice me to go see a movie. And one of the pieces that I didn't share in the quick telling of it was that I actually said to her, I said, you know, Mom, I would rather stare at a blank wall for 2 hours than go to the movies. Because with a blank wall, I can meditate, I can pray, I can do my japa, I can introspect. And as I shared last night, you know, at that time, probably even still today, sitting in a movie theater in the midst of a big movie, it's a distraction, pulls you away. Not that it's bad, but just that it distracts us. And so we start making different choices to free ourselves of so much of that noise. But then something very interesting happens. Then we discover that actually the loudest noise is inside our own heads. So the first thing we do, typically, is we work to remove distractions and noise outside. We want a place that's more peaceful, a place that's quieter. We don't want to be surrounded by people who are too materialistic or gossipy or negative. And then we get ourselves into a place physically that feels like, yes, yes. And then we start to notice that the pebbles are in our mind, that they're not actually outside, that the loudest distraction is my own mind. But it takes us a lot of times quieting the outer world first, especially in the beginning, in order to hear that. But once we start to really get into the work of quieting the inner mind, then you can physically be anywhere and you're quiet. You can physically be with anyone in any situation. And it doesn't feel like rocks being thrown at you. It doesn't feel like a hindrance or a distraction. But in the beginning, yeah. But don't kid yourself that the universe is working against you and purposely trying to derail you. It's just that you notice it more. And sometimes we do get offered, in a variety of ways, temptations. There's, the beautiful story of Nachiketa. I won't go into the whole story. There's the whole Katha Upanishad is about it. But it's a beautiful story of a young boy who goes to Yamraj to inquire. What is the way? What is the way to be free? And Yamraj tries to entice him. He's like, you're just a kid. Come on, have some sports. Here's a baseball glove and a baseball bat and a video game or, whatever the Xbox thing is these days. Just imagine whatever you would use to entice a kid. And he throws it all at him. And Nachiketa's not interested. No. He says, no. Single pointed. And Yamraj then starts to throw the adult type of enticements at him. Success, wealth, fame, you will be this, you will be that, you will be... But Nachiketa is so clear. All he wants is this wisdom that's going to show him how to free himself from this cycle of birth and death. No enticements from Yamraj. I'll build you this castle and kingdom. You'll have this fame. You'll have this fortune. You'll have this name. None of it. And finally, Yamraj is left with basically no option but to give him what he's asked for. He's a guest in Yamraj's home. He's been quite rudely waiting for the last many days. And there's an etiquette. There's rules of etiquette of how you treat guests. And so he has to give him this wisdom. And hence we have this really beautiful Upanishad. But the point being that there are situations in which, not in a way to derail us, but just in a way to test how firm our resolve is. Sometimes the universe does try to distract us. It's what a lot of the siddhis are, which are these powers that arise out of certain types of meditation, certain types of sadhana, certain types of tapas. The powers that are given. And they're very, very enticing. And they're spiritual in that they arise out of spiritual practice. But all of the deepest, highest teachings warn you, don't get distracted. It's enticing. Now you can manifest something. Now you can have clairvoyance. Now you can have this. Now you can have that. Do not get distracted. When those siddhis arise is the moment that you are at a fork in your spiritual path. You can walk the path of this power, or you can continue walking toward God. But you can't walk both simultaneously. And so it's given really clearly, don't get distracted. So yes, sometimes we do get offered temptations to test our resolve. But the universe is working for you, not against you. So if suddenly it seems like you've got all of these pebbles of distractions in your life, just realize that they've probably always been there, but you didn't know. And be so grateful that now you're able to see them and free yourself of them. Yeah, great question. Other questions? Yes, right in front.
Namaste.
Namaste.
So, my question's around patterns within myself that I know I have, but I seem to still kind of play out, and I only realize I played them out quite late down the track. To be a bit more specific, I think I have this kind of rescuer, people pleaser, kind of tendency, emotional caretaking. Actually, that's the term that I was looking for, because of being raised by quite emotionally unstable and manipulative mother. So having done a lot of therapy and reading a lot of psychology and also spiritual sadhana as well, I'd like to think that I'm quite self-aware. And yet, even recently, it almost blew up a really quite, close friendship because I didn't realize I was overextending myself and I was acting kind of more from a place of guilt rather than, actual genuine love. And it gets extra confusing because I'm trying to, practice karma yoga right now as a spiritual practice to serve, right? To find any opportunity I can to help. And it gets so confusing now because I'm like, am I actually trying to help from a genuine place, or am I, again, just acting out of my wounds again?
Great.
So that's...
Yeah, great question. And a deep question because it brings up a really interesting truth, which is that just because I may have a maladaptive or dysfunctional personal emotional process around something, like emotional caretaking, for example, doesn't mean that the thing itself is wrong. And that starts to get really subtle. So for you, as you've mentioned, being raised by the mother that you were and the family that you were in those circumstances, you've got this pattern around emotional caretaking that you need to be free of. And yet, from a spiritual perspective, from a perspective of compassion and care and empathy and service, helping other people emotionally is beautiful and wonderful. So it leaves us in this really interesting, subtle situation. And the answer to it is to realize that you are the vehicle through which emotional help is flowing. You say, I am trying to help. Instead of that, because that gets sticky. Which you? The spiritually evolved you or the young kind of stuck you? If it's the young stuck you, then that trying to help is going to be acting out patterns, and there's going to be guilt, and there's going to be a need for acknowledgement. There's going to be a need to be seen. It's never going to feel like it's enough. It's going to be a self-deprecating situation rather than something that's actually fulfilling the highest truth of who you are and sharing your love and your beauty and your understanding with others. If instead of that, because you've mentioned that you've already done lots and lots of the psychological work, instead, let the prayer to the universe just be, oh, divine, use me. Use me. Use me in whatever way you deem fit. And sometimes they're going to use you to, give an arm to help somebody down the steps or across the street. Sometimes they're going to use you to buy somebody a hot meal at a restaurant you walked into and there's a beggar standing in front. And sometimes you're going to be used to offer somebody some emotional support. But it's not you consciously or subconsciously plotting and planning how you can be offering this or allowing yourself to be manipulated into it. It's simply you as an empty channel, you as an instrument. This microphone, for example, it can transmit satsang like it's doing now. But if instead of giving satsang, I stood up here and I started shouting obscenities, for example, well, the microphone would still transmit it. The microphone is not making a value judgment on what it's being used as an instrument for. It's just an instrument. In the same way, this microphone, it was used to sing. It's used for the tabla, the guitar, the harmonium. Now it gets used for questions. Sometimes people ask certain types of questions. The other night, a few nights ago, we had a gentleman in here with some neurological and emotional issues who was challenged and angry. Microphone works for everybody. It's just an instrument. If you can have the faith in the divine to allow yourself to be used, not by everyone's personal agenda, and this also becomes very subtle and very interesting and a beautiful piece of spiritual work. You're not offering yourself up into other people's neurotic agendas. You're offering yourself up to the flow of the divine. And that's going to take some practice in understanding what's what, but it's a really important and really beautiful piece of work. So if you allow yourself to just be that instrument, then you're going to get used. And you may get used for emotional support sometimes. And you may get used for other things other times. But it's not going to play into that pattern because it's not about the guilt or the planning or the manipulation or the sense of lack, or it's just you as an instrument. And whether it's a meal or a walk across the street or emotional support, it's not you, it's the divine. And so it's a practice of emptying of the self every day. More and more empty. Okay, God, you know the plan. I'm just emptying myself. Use me. Use me. Let me blossom. If I'm a rose, let me blossom as a rose. If I'm jasmine, let me blossom as jasmine. I don't know what I am, but you know. I am offering myself, this seed, this sprout, to you. Use me. And if you can let that be the intention, then the convolutedness between the pattern or the spiritual practice, it dissipates. Because then you're just offering to the divine. And you'll feel it. You'll start to feel it. You'll know as the weeks and the months go by, and especially as the years go by, but even sooner than that, you'll start to energetically feel the difference between being used by the divine in your highest dharma as a vehicle versus being used by somebody else's neurotic process. It may take a little bit of time, but it'll absolutely, you'll start to feel it. It's like if you've been doing a physical detox, yoga program, meditation program, even just a health detox, and you eat something that maybe you used to be able to digest, but immediately there's a feeling in the body of like something that's not clean because the body has become so purified that suddenly the junk that you didn't used to notice, suddenly you notice it. And in the same way, you'll start to notice those sort of junk motivations and junk energy rather than the really pure energy. Yeah, great question. Yes. Namaskar.
Like you told, don't create the emptiness.
I'm so sorry?
You told now that don't create the emptiness between the people. We have to see that
Yes.
supreme eternal power in everyone. So how can I make myself convince a person who is involved in unethical activities, a person who is involved in unhuman and terrorist activity, how can I see that supreme God in him or her?
Yeah, great. How do we see that divine in people who are doing awful things? We see it by recognizing that they are walking their karmic path and journey just like we are. The more and more honest we get with ourselves and our own weaknesses, the easier it becomes to see that in others. Now, we may be, on the flip side, we may be absolutely committing ourselves consciously to a life of honesty, a life of nonviolence, a life of service. And then you see people living in violence and exploitation and harm and greed, and you think, my God, well, if I could do it, certainly they can do it. If I can be honest, they should be honest. But that's a judgment of karmic package to karmic package. When we say the divine, we're not saying their personality, we're not saying their psyche, we're not saying physical manifestation of their karmic journey in this moment. We're saying that just as we are not our bodies, are not our roles, are not our stories, we are soul, so are they. Now, their soul has come onto earth associated with a karmic package that's troubled. Because we only bring harm to others when we are suffering inside. So they have come onto earth with a karmic journey of inner suffering. And you know, when you can look at their past histories, if you know their stories, typically what you see is abuse, you see neglect, you see lack, you see harm. We say, oh, okay, so that's their story, their narrative. It gives us the ability to find compassion for them. But the divine aspect that we speak about is not about that story. It's not, oh, your personality is divine, or oh, your actions are divine. It's the soul, the consciousness, the spirit, the source that is associated in this lifetime with this body and these sanskaras and this psyche and this history. That soul is one with the divine. Their jivatma is one with Paramatma in the exact same way that our jivatma is one with Paramatma. That our individual soul is one with the Supreme Soul. So is theirs. And it's a beautiful practice to see beyond the words, beyond the actions. We're not being called to approve of their actions. We're not being called to like their actions. We're certainly not being called to love their actions or to worship them. We're being called to see soul beneath the actions. And to recognize that the same soul, that undivided soul, a waveform of which is associated with my body and my story, a different waveform but of the exact same cosmic ocean, is associated with their body. And we start to move through the world seeing soul rather than seeing personality and history and actions. So that's the teaching. You could fight against someone politically, morally, ethically, legally. You could be the judge who sentences someone to life imprisonment for the actions that they've done. And simultaneously, spiritually, see them as divine soul. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. I see them as soul, and I recognize that in this karmic journey, their body, their history, their experiences have created a pattern of thought and therefore action that is harmful to society. Therefore, they need to be punished, rehabilitated, whatever it is. But I'm still able to see soul. I know people who actually have taken this to a really beautiful level, who on their altars, on their shrines, their personal shelves of worship or tables of worship or corners of worship that they've built in their homes, along with pictures and images of so many different saints, gurus, masters. We'll put pictures of particularly different political leaders they're having problems with. And it's a very interesting practice to see the same soul, a much less evolved being, but same soul. And they do it as a practice, as a spiritual practice for themselves. Can they see that same divinity that they're worshiping in Krishna or Buddha or Christ or the Divine Mother, in some political leader doing something that they think is absolutely awful, or somebody else? Just a personal spiritual practice to see soul. Yeah. Great. Yes.
Good evening, Sadhviji. I'm Raghav. I've come all the way from Chicago, and my journey has brought me from Vrindavan, the birthplace of Krishna, to Rishikesh, and perhaps next to Varanasi. I'm traveling not out of blind faith, but in search of meaning. With so many paths, which has a lot of meaning in Hinduism, Buddhism, etc., how does one make sense of it all? And how does this search for meaning eventually settle? And how can I find the right spiritual direction?
How can you find?
The right spiritual direction.
Okay. So first of all, your job is not to make sense of it all, thankfully. Unless you are planning on a career as a cultural or religious anthropologist or sociologist or someone who is going to research and write about different people's search for meaning. Unless that is the career path that you're looking at, your job is not to make sense of it all. Your job is to allow yourself to be touched by either one path or a beautiful potpourri of aspects of different paths, so that you can get closer to an experience of the truth of who you are. And it may absolutely come from, for example, given the different things that you've just mentioned, it could come through a bhakti and a love for Krishna that leads you to chant his name, pray to him, sing to him, and a path of meditation, introspection, self-knowledge, deeply rooted in the Buddhist tradition. You could then also find inspiration and wisdom from so many other paths. You could find yourself, for example, here for a week in a Vedanta course. You could realize, oh, Krishna's not separate from me. Oh, we're one. But you could still keep loving him, and you could still keep chanting to him, and you could still keep worshiping him. Because even when we know we're one, it's still so beautiful to be in love, and you can still live in the ras, the juice of a spiritual path, and have a sacred contemplative path of reminding yourself, Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. I am. And you could fill yourself with teachings and practices from so many different paths, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The goal is come back deep within yourself. So instead of using your mind to try to intellectually figure it out, allow your heart to feel what touches you. Imagine walking through a grocery store. The way that most of us do it. So you look at ingredients. Oh, what's in this? And we stop and we read the ingredients. What's in here? How much fat? How many calories? How much sugar? What's the ingredients in this? What's the ingredients in that? And we choose what's going to go in our cart based on ingredient lists. How much fat? How many calories? How many carbs? How much this? How much that? How much of my daily vitamin E am I going to get from this? How much magnesium do I get from that? How much calcium do I get from that? Fill our cart like that. But on a deep level, when we are in tune, when we're deeply in tune with self, actually the best way to shop and eat is intuitively. What is it that when you walk by calls to you? Not because you saw a commercial of some beautiful person who you wish you looked like eating it, not the indoctrinated mind, but the deeply attuned, balanced, aligned being that knows what it needs. And to literally allow yourself to just put in the cart. Oh, it may be different from last week. Body's needing something different. It may have more or less fat or carbs than I thought I needed. Okay, body must be needing something different this week. And it's a different way of moving. And I would encourage you to move that way on a spiritual path instead of kind of reading the ingredients of all the different paths. What's this one got to offer? What are these people doing? How is it working? Allow your heart to open. What's touching you? What's getting you closer? What makes you feel like you know yourself better? In which place or which practice or which community do you feel the most anchored, grounded, true, whole, open? What challenges you but also inspires you to go beyond ego, go beyond desire, go beyond stories? That inspires you to just offer of yourself to the divine. And then walk with them. And the beautiful thing is, it's not like a marriage where you've got to walk around the fire 7 times with it, committing to it for 7 lifetimes. You can walk a spiritual path for a while and then decide, I want to try this. And add it on. Try this, add it on. It's a beautiful story of Paramahansa Ramakrishna actually committing himself to see. He was a lover of the goddess, a lover of Ma Kali. But he decided he wanted to see, could he access that same experience through actually different religions, not even through different aspects of kind of the same Dharma? Can he get there through Christianity? Can he get there through Islam? Can he get just all the different paths? And he spent time worshiping Christ, worshiping Allah, going through all of these different paths to discover that he got to exactly the same place. Sort of like all paths lead to Ma Kali for him, because that was his inner experience. But it didn't matter whether he went through Christ or Allah or directly through the Kali temple. It didn't matter. So there's nothing that says thou shalt not adopt a new path. It works for you, fantastic. Use it. They're tools, they're techniques. Use whatever works for you. We use certain tools as long as we can make them work, and then sometimes you get a different tool and you go, this works better. Fantastic. But use whatever works. Yeah, wonderful. Yes, sure. Namaste.
So I have two questions actually. Yeah. So first one being, is there any free will, or is everything destined?
Okay.
And specifically when we talk about in terms of relationships, when people come and go in our life, do we have some control over it, or it's like everything, every single move that we do is all predetermined, is all destined? So that's my first question.
Okay.
And maybe after that, can I ask my second
Sure.
question? Yeah,
Sure.
thank you. I'll stay here.
Okay. So, freedom, free will, and destiny, especially in relationships. We have free will in everything. Certain things are destined because we have different types of karmic fruit. We have immediate karmic fruit, we have long-term karmic fruit, and we have what's called the prarabdha, which is the long-term karmic fruit that is manifesting now, blossoming in your garden today. That's what we would consider destiny. For example, you're in a relationship and the person you're in a relationship with leaves you for someone else, even though you have, at the time and in retrospect and with all the clarity that you have, done absolutely everything in your power to be as wonderful to them as you possibly can. Nonetheless, they leave you. Or maybe they die. Or maybe they move away. You know, that happens more when we're young and a best friend gets whisked off by the family to another country. So there's different ways that we get left in relationship. Most of the time that arises out of destiny rather than out of the way that we've used our free will. Unless I've used my free will in such a way that I've pushed somebody away. If I've been so unable or unwilling to look at aspects of myself, I certainly could push someone away. But typically, assuming that we have been good human beings nonetheless, but that we've been good human beings, that we've been caring and compassionate and nice and honest and loyal and whatnot, the loss that we experience in relationship, or the real deep challenge that we experience in relationship, perhaps an arranged marriage that we are doing everything we possibly can to make work, and we just can't make it work, but we're fighting to do it because, you know, divorce is taboo. These sorts of things typically arise from past karma, and there is a particular aspect of destiny that needs to be worked out through this happening. And it may be that that person was brought into our life just for a particular period of time to give us a particular experience or teach us a particular lesson. Or it may be that the loss itself is the main lesson that we're given. That there's something critical. It's not a punishment. I emphasize this over and over and over again. The universe is not punishing you. But there may be a critical piece of soul work that I need to do that is most conducive to be done in this particular relationship with these particular challenges, or in the loss of this particular relationship. And it's hard. But I can tell you from knowing, being what I would say really blessed to know, so many parents who have actually lost a child. I mean, what must be, as far as I can tell, the absolute hardest and most devastating of any relationship challenge that any of us goes through. Not to undermine any other challenge, but I just think that there is something about parents losing a child that is, perhaps, if not the absolute worst, it's certainly one of the worst. And I've been really blessed to know so many parents who have lost children, young people who have lost spouses at very, very young ages, car accidents, whatever it may be. Incredibly devastated as they are, there is such a powerful, powerful piece of spiritual work that happens. That the cosmic tapestry begins to reveal itself as the time goes by. Oh, this is why. This is how. It is so that this foundation would be created and would save the lives of this, or so that I would suffer, struggle, and then emerge in this way. So we see past karma, past aspects, actions that are creating destiny of today that begin to make sense, typically only when we're able to see them from a bit of a distance. But deep relationship struggles in the relationship, if you're still in the relationship, I would say assume that you've got total freedom. Because why not? Why not be totally optimistic and assume that today is going to be the day that you're going to figure out how to get along? That today is the day that you're going to bond in love. Why not? Because far too frequently we also get lazy and complacent and we say, oh, it must just not be in my stars to get along with this person, or this relationship must just be doomed by destiny. And so we don't work and we don't look at ourselves and we don't fully use our free will to see what is the way that I am contributing to this relationship not working. What am I bringing to the table here? What judgment, what ego, what arrogance, what attachment, what expectation, what vision? What am I bringing to the table here? So if you are still in the relationship, I would say absolutely assume that you have total and complete free will and use it to transform the relationship. But if you are in a situation where the relationship no longer exists, then, and you feel like you really did everything, then just understand it as a critical part of your destiny. And ask yourself, okay, if this was my destiny, clearly there must be something of benefit for me on a soul level. It feels awful in my heart. It feels awful in my mind. It feels awful in my body. But clearly there must be some benefit on a soul level. Please, God, show me what it is. And just let that be your prayer.
There's a third scenario as well.
Okay.
Wherein relationship does not exist, and I feel that I didn't put in much effort that should have been there.
Ah, so the regret.
Yeah.
After, yeah. You know, guilt is toxic, but regret is wonderful. Because regret is that which actually helps us to grow and change so that we don't make the same mistake in the future. It feels bad, I know that. But allow it to be an energy that transforms you. Give the guilt to Ganga. Go and sit by Ganga and say, Ganga, please take this guilt. I didn't try hard enough. I was lazy. I was egoistic. I was complacent. I was arrogant. Whatever it was. Take that from me. But now, show me the way in my next relationship to be more present, more humble, more aware, more loving, more compassionate. And use that regret as an energy to catalyze a better growth of you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. My last question. Earlier you said to surrender yourself completely when we were down there. So whom to surrender, how to surrender, and why to surrender?
Okay. So we'll take this as our last question this evening. To whom to surrender, how to surrender, and why to surrender. So let's start with the why. Surrender is, as I always share, it's really misunderstood as a sign of weakness. We think of surrender as that which we do when we're losing and failing. But surrender in life on a spiritual level is actually really strong because it requires a level of wisdom and clarity that says, this isn't in my hands anyway. I don't have any control over anything other than my own actions, my thoughts, and the ripple that they have into my actions. That is all I have control over. The rest is truly in God's hands. And so to whom to surrender? You could say God, if that works for you. You could say the divine. You could say cosmic intelligence. You could say Mother Nature. You could say source. You could say the universe. You can say whatever works for you as that intelligence, that supreme intelligence that actually knows. Because if we have no control and there's nothing we can do, and yet it's so clear that there is a plan, well, then there must be a planner. There must be a capital K knower, a capital P planner. Whatever we call that. We surrender to that. We surrender into a universe that is there for us. Preset, that catches us. Because we don't have control. Okay, to whom, why, how? How to surrender. It begins with a conscious decision. Okay, I have tried this death grip on life thing enough. It doesn't work. I have made myself frustrated. I have given myself ulcers and migraines and insomnia. I have driven away most or all the people I love because of my obstinance, because of my stubbornness, because of my neuroses, because of my attachments. It doesn't get me anywhere. Okay, God. I surrender. My attachments, my stress has done nothing but cause me incredible anxiety, misery, frustration, anger. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. You run the show. You were running it anyway. But temporarily, I was living in an illusion that I was also kind of helping you run it. But I'm prepared to free myself of that illusion. You run it just the way you've always run it. You don't need my permission, but I'm giving it to you anyway. I'm going to stop trying to usurp your role. I'm going to stop trying to step on your toes and do it better. I'm going to live surrendered to the awareness that you know what you're doing. And on an even deeper level, if you can go there, to the awareness that you actually have my highest benefit in mind. That you are not random. But that actually, on a level far bigger, deeper, vaster than I have the ability to see and understand, you actually have my best interest at heart. And I surrender. So, yeah, it's an incredibly difficult, but incredibly important, incredibly empowered and empowering spiritual decision of strength, of clarity. Yeah, beautiful. Have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your evening, everyone. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world online. And so much love to you all. I look so forward to seeing all of you again tomorrow.